Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one, it's a team selection video for Game Week 14. I'll also be doing a breakdown, of course, at the beginning of my Game Week 13 draft and how I got on with it. Of course, if you've tuned into the live stream at the weekend and were a follower of the channel over the past few weeks, you'll know the two moves that I decided to make did unfortunately mean a negative score overall, pretty much in terms of my transfers out and in. It's probably been my worst transfers made in isolation so far this season, but we'll go through the decision making and essentially how I got on shortly. Of course, if you're new to the channel and you do like what you see, then please consider subscribing to me. We want to reach that 500 mark if possible ahead of the World Cup. That would be absolutely phenomenal. If we can get that community tab up and running on the channel during that international break, that would be absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate all the support so far, guys. And of course, yeah, feel free to hit that button if you're new around here. And of course, if you do like the content specifically, then smash the like button on this video. So let's have a look at how we got on last week. First of all, as mentioned, it was a pretty dire situation for me, really. I brought in Foden and Saka for a -4. I took out Maddison and Trossard. So overall, not only did I only score 2 points with a -4 essentially, so effectively a -2 in the transfers I made, but also missing out on Maddison and Trossard returns. I think scoring 8 and 7 points respectively. So 15 points combined total from them, as well as the -4 and only 2 points recovered is very disappointing indeed. But that being said, I still think with the fixtures that they had this week and over the next few weeks, whenever we make these moves, and of course hits as well, it's not for an isolated game week. It is for the future game weeks as well. And I think both of these midfielders warrant their choices. Even with the midweek fixture congestion with the European games of these teams, I still think that they provide enough value and threat moving forward to have warranted that -4 overall. So we'll see how much it pays off, let's say, by game week 16. But these two are pretty much going nowhere between now and the start of the World Cup. So I'm very happy with my squad overall now. Yes, I've taken the hit and I've had a 200k red arrow this week, but I do anticipate that we should obviously kick back into gear essentially and try and get into that 500,000 mark rank before the World Cup. That would be an ideal rank for me to achieve. So as I say, 51 points overall, with the -4 taking me to 47. I've got no flexibility with money in the bank, as the two moves I've mentioned were exact in terms of the money. I did it ahead of Foden's price rise or potential price rise, which did actually occur. So in fact, if I would have been a little bit more patient, I would have priced myself out of these two moves, but I decided to go against that, try and aim for as much value as possible, and of course did get a slight swing in that value ready for the World Cup. So current value sitting at 102.2, so very happy with that. Moving then from nets all the way through to the forwards, let's review each player slowly but surely. So Guaita, 2 points, disappointing really against an Everton side that we thought maybe would have been a difficult fixture essentially for them to break through on. But they've proved that 3 goals past Palace is maybe they weren't as a formidable defence as I give them credit for. But to be honest, Guaita as a pick, he hasn't been too consistent. But after scoring me 11 points last week, I can't really complain. He's kind of done the business, not consistently, but enough for me to warrant that I'm still happy with him as a pick. Of course, then Cancelo, through the community, there was plenty of different checklists, I think, over Twitter and across YouTube, kind of stating that there was a bit of a troll checklist for Game Week 13, and one of those points was Trossard wiping out the City clean sheet, which did happen. The only goal that Brighton scored was scored by Trossard, and of course Cancelo didn't get any attacking returns in the 3 City goals either. So unfortunately, he only scored 2 points, but I will say that I think with the fixtures moving forward for him, if you are a Trent Alexander-Arnold owner, I think, to be honest, this is the point where you move sideways to him. Of course, it is a little bit more money now to spend and invest in him, but I just think at that price point, he's the better option and should really be in our teams for the remainder of the season. And then I think really with Trippier, I think you can almost put him in the same bracket. I think Newcastle showcasing that they're top 4 worthy now and actually breaking through into that is just, again, proof why essentially I think he's a solid option. I wouldn't necessarily trust a double up on Newcastle defence, as I think some people have done, but this man, in terms of his attacking output, definitely warrants his choice, like we do with Cancelo, Reece James, those types of individuals as well. We're not always just banking on the clean sheet. We want the attacking returns as well. It just so happened to be against Tottenham. Yes, it was a bit of a tougher fixture, but I was never realistically going to be playing Nico Williams against Liverpool over the top of him. So yes, Trippier scored 2, Nico scores 6, but on another week, that's completely flipped. So still happy with the choice to start him, essentially. It's just unfortunate we didn't get a return. And then, of course, in terms of returns, James Justin coming in again with a clean sheet for me, which, to be fair, when I've played him, apart from 1 week since bringing him in on the wild card, he has delivered for me. I've missed out on a couple of clean sheets from Leicester over the past few weeks, but again, this was a week where I wanted him and needed him, and he's delivered, so I can't really complain too much. I would caveat that, though, with the fact that when I did select him in the wild card, I did think he was going to offer maybe a little bit more attacking threat than I've been happy to see. I think he does hold fire a little bit more, and I don't know if that's because he, maybe Brendan Rodgers feels like it risks him in terms of injury. We know he's suffered before from things like that. Maybe he doesn't make those attacking runs as often as someone like Castagna, let's say. But of course, he does still make some darting runs moving forward. So maybe there's an attacking return in the next few weeks. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend bringing in a Leicester defender ahead of City next week anyway. So happy about that 6 points. Moving into the midfield then, Mo Salah, probably one of the biggest talking points again in the FPL world. For his price tag and what he's delivering, it's just very, very unfortunate. He's not hitting the same levels of form that we know that he's quite capable of doing. I don't know really what's happened in terms of Liverpool, to be honest. I know they have been suffering from injuries, but generally speaking, the 2 points against Nottingham Forest is something that you just don't expect. We had the debate on the live stream and people were talking about captaining him. And to be honest, I did think that he was maybe going to return this week. I felt with Nunez out as well that maybe he put himself into more of a central role and maybe that actually swung people in terms of the captaincy. But of course, that just didn't pay off this week. And I think, long term, I would just recommend now that, yes, he does look great on paper in terms of the fixtures, which is why I brought him in the first place. But as long as you have Erling Haaland in the team right now, I really don't think you can bet against him in terms of that armband. So, yes, an unfortunate display from him. Even more unfortunate if you trusted him with the armband. But I still think he's a hold for me for at least one more week. Let's just see what he can do against Leeds at Anfield. And, hopefully he can warrant his choice when we brought him in. Then, of course, the next three midfielders, both Saka, Zaha and Phil Foden, all scoring me 1 point each, respectively. Very disappointing display from them, considering how much value is in this midfield, and only scoring me a total of 5 points between them. So very disappointing displays. Of course, Saka and Zaha both picking up a yellow card each, as well as having the clean sheet wiped out. And Phil Foden being the kind of the another one of those troll checklists for us, where it's the first time that Pep Roulette has really kicked in for him. He's had consistent starts, and the week that we bring him in, of course, he goes and starts on the bench. I will say, though, with watching the game, when he did come on for those 30 minutes, I think Pep really needs to consider starting him moving forward for the next few, because even if he does play some midweek minutes in the Champions League, I think the energy levels that he brought to City in that 30 minutes he played against Brighton really showcased for me how he should be starting ahead of someone like Mahrez. I don't dislike Mahrez. I think he is a great player. He's won the Premier League of past. He's absolutely great in terms of a natural talent, and a goal-scoring prowess is definitely there. I just think his energy levels and his consistency hasn't been there as well as Foden. So I think really he's the person that starts, maybe even ahead of Grealish as well. I just hope that Pep understands or sees that as well. But hey-ho, if you're watching Pep, please don't troll me again. That would be fantastic. And of course, yes, Zaha and Saka, the other two individuals to mention. I would say Zaha is more of that talisman option. He hasn't really returned much for us so far since owning him. But again, these next few fixtures, he plays Southampton, then West Ham, that's maybe a bit trickier. But then he's got Forest, I think, in game week 16. So I think he is an absolute hold for me. I do understand why some managers are moving him on to the likes of Saka or a similar price-pointed midfielder. But I think he's got the potential really to do some damage over these next few weeks. And of course, Saka as well, I think, is a very solid option. Although they play Chelsea in game week 15, I think even then he is a hold for me, and a fantastic Arsenal attacking asset to own. Finally, then moving into the front three, we've already mentioned Haaland. I don't think we need to discuss him anymore. Yes, I put the armband on him. I gained 26 points. He was the highest scoring person on my team. It was the right decision. Let's move on. Mitrovic, 7-pointer, 1 goal scored, 1 bonus. Unfortunately, in a 3-2 victory, it does mean as a striker you realistically need at least 2 attacking returns probably to climb up those bonus points that little bit higher. But he has been consistent again over these past few weeks. Maybe some question marks over his prowess on that penalty taking duty. I think there's been a bit of nerves there. He hasn't been, sort of let's say, very convincing in his execution of them, but he scored them nonetheless. So happy to have owned him through these good run of fixtures. He's also got an Everton at home fixture next up, which I'm looking forward to again, as I think Everton do still, although they beat Palace 3-0, I still think that they're going to be on the road, maybe a little bit of a team to target. So happy to own him for that week. But then he's definitely someone that I'll probably look to move on, or at least bench during that City and Man United fixture in 15 and 16 respectively. And then finally, this man, Ivan Toney. I do feel a little bit unfortunate that he didn't get a return against Chelsea and then a favourable fixture on paper against Villa. After sacking Steven Gerrard, I really thought that this was going to be a pretty much a no-brainer for him to be scoring or getting some kind of attacking return. But it just wasn't to be. Villa, phenomenal comeback from them, 4-0. What a bounce back. You wouldn't have probably written that in the fixture predictions ahead of that game. But yeah, credit where credit's due. They fully deserved it. Toney was pretty much missing for the majority of that game. But again, really at this point with him, for me, since owning him, he's of course got the 4 yellow cards. Over these few weeks, he's escaped that 5th yellow. So to be honest, this is kind of the tightrope that I'm walking with him at the moment. These next few fixtures look great. I really don't feel like he's a sell at this point for me either, unless the suspension warrants it. So one to keep an eye on, but so far I'm happy with the fact that he's escaped that 5th yellow. We will touch on the bench finally as well. Iverson, a non-playing keeper, so no fusses there. Of course, Andreas, another troll of the week for many managers, being first choice on my bench, not being able to come on, but of course scoring double digits with a 10-pointer. So very, very good if you did choose to go with him in your team. Congratulations if you had him as an auto sub as well. I can't really complain, as I've had him save my week a couple of times coming on as an auto sub in previous weeks. It just wasn't to be this week. So unfortunate. But again, he was always going to be a budget enabler that was a bench option for me. I didn't feel like he warranted his place in the starting 11 for this squad specifically. But of course, that's come back and bitten me a little bit. And then finally, Webster and Nico Williams. Webster, 1-pointer. I didn't expect anything more, to be honest, from him with the City fixture. And then Nico, of course, the surpriser of the week, or again, another troll of the week, if you like, coming in with a clean sheet return against Liverpool at home. So, yeah, a bit of a strange game week overall, guys. But nonetheless, I'm still happy with how the squad is shaping up. So let's have a look at how they run up to game week 14 now, and let's just see what we've got to play with. Ultimately, there's only one player in this team that has got a tricky fixture this week, and that is Webster against Chelsea at home. The good news really for me, I suppose, is that it is at the Amex. Chelsea haven't been, let's say, prolific in their goal scoring of recent weeks, so I'm hoping that they can keep them out, to be honest, and this is a clean sheet potential for Webster. Of course, there is every chance that they go and sort of kick into gear, but I think with Potter at the moment, he's rotating his team quite a lot, especially with the midweek fixtures. This is a manager that's not been used to, of course, European games as well as Premier League games. He does seem to get his tactics wrong sometimes. He has been quick to change them, as we saw in the United game, taking Cucurella off, and that's shifting to the back four. So maybe he adjusts again against his old squad in Brighton. You could say maybe he knows their weak areas, of course, as being the manager for them for so long. But we'll have to wait and see. I still think, even on paper, yes, it's a difficult fixture. We could see some returns from him. So as the kind of worst option that I've got in my team, I'm still happy that I've got him in the squad. And then, of course, Guaita, Trippier, Cancelo, they've all got very favourable fixtures. Pretty much every single player in this team, bar Webster, as mentioned, has got a fixture that doesn't rank any higher than 2 on the ticker. So very, very happy with that. I'm expecting a little bit more from Guaita this week against Southampton. Likewise for Trippier against Villa. We'll have to see, now that we've got news that Unai Emery has taken over in terms of the Villa manager, how quickly he can come in and instill any type of, let's say, shape and structure to Villa to keep Newcastle at bay. My bet is that Eddie Howe is going to be able to get the best of him, to be honest. But we do know that Unai Emery is a very formidable manager. He's of course managed the Premier League before, and I think it's a great appointment from Villa. So looking forward to seeing what he can do to that squad. But I still think Trippier is a fantastic option here. Of course, Cancelo, as mentioned in the breakdown, I think if you haven't got this man yet, you do everything you can to get him in. He's got Leicester, he's got Fulham, he's got Brentford. I think, those 3 fixtures for these next 3 weeks are absolutely fantastic. So, I think he's definitely the best option at that price point. Then moving into the midfield, we do still have the faith in Mo Salah. I don't have any plans to remove him just yet, but he's definitely on the watch list out for me if he doesn't do something against Leeds, to be honest. Having that much money tied up into somebody that you're not realistically going to be putting the armband on, and to be honest, when you have the likes of, let's say, Almiron, that's nearly, a third of his price, it's pretty much outstanding how he can be scoring more points than this man. So I think he doesn't warrant the must own in the squads anymore as he maybe did from game week 1 onwards. But I just think, he's a one to hold a Leeds fixture against at home at Anfield. I just think it's an obvious keep for me, but definitely one to watch. Then with Saka, Zaha and Foden, again, these three midfielders, they are, that kind of mid-price midfielder price point that I do anticipate better returns from than we saw last week. Of course, Phil Foden is the minutes risk. I'm hoping that Pep, of course, plays him. Zaha, I'm thinking, against Southampton at home. I think Palace at home are definitely a much better squad than they are on the road. So I'm hoping some good things from him as well. And of course, Saka against Forest. Look, we know we've seen Forest in terms of what they've done now just against Liverpool. That was a great win for them. They're going to be coming up, full of confidence, ready for the game. I just think that Arsenal and City are on that little bit different level in terms of the Premier League right now. And Saka is, of course, at the forefront with Martinelli and Jesus in that front three for Arsenal. So I'm expecting some returns for him. I really anticipate that this is one of his best fixtures between now and game week 16. So very happy to own him. And of course, I'm hoping that he stays on penalty duty as well. So that's my midfield. And then, of course, the forwards. No changes here again in Haaland, Mitrovic and Ivan Toney. Again, three very, very positive fixtures for these three. Again, I'm hoping with Ivan Toney that he misses on that yellow card again to keep him throughout game weeks 14, 15 and 16. And then Mitrovic, I think, is probably going to be his last game for me where he plays in the starting 11. With the Everton at home fixture, this is kind of the last run or the last fixture that I wanted to play him for. And then, of course, with City and United in 15 and 16, I may move him on. So we'll see on different options later on in the week when I bring out a watch list video. So stay tuned for that this week if that also interests you. And then finally, let's just talk about captaincy and bench. At the moment, I've, of course, got the armband on Erling Haaland. I know it's boring, and if you've come to the channel and you're expecting something different, then I apologise, but it's just so difficult to justify going against him at the moment. The vice-captaincy is on Salah, but to be honest, I might even move that to someone like Foden or Saka. I don't even think he warrants that, just in case Haaland does miss the fixture. I just think that, even being the second premium in my side, I'm just not sure that he's going to be doing the business as Saka and Foden may do. So that's where we are with captaincy. In terms of the bench, again, Iverson's a non-playing keeper, so we don't really need to go through that. He wouldn't be playing anyway against City for me in that fixture. Andreas, again, being the first bench option. Realistically, though, again, I've got to look at it from that strategic point of view, or the logical perspective is that he is the cheaper enabler option in my bench. There is no reason to be bringing him into the starting 11 as it stands, unless we get any late injury news or illness, something happening where someone doesn't travel with the squad for any reason. Then yes, he's definitely an option where I will probably play him rather than forcing the transfer as I've done in previous weeks sometimes, as I think he does provide a tremendous amount of attacking threat and value at that 4.6 million. And then, of course, the two other bench options there, James Justin and Nico Williams, playing City and Arsenal respectively. I don't think they come anywhere near my starting 11. Again, it's realistically only going to be a situation where if there's 2 or 3 injuries in this squad over the midweek fixtures, or something happens that maybe we're forced into playing them. But for as it stands, there's pretty much no need to be bringing them in. So that is how the team is shaping up, guys, for game week 14. I hope that you guys had a much more successful game week 13 than me. What are your plans for game week 14? Are you going to be going against Erling Haaland again if you were one of those unlucky managers that already decided to do that this week? Let me know in the comments below, guys. And of course, I will have a live stream once again on Saturday ahead of that game week 14 deadline. So feel free to tune into that to make sure you finalise all of the details for this team. And of course, any headaches that you've got, any solutions you want to your your problems, come and join me on that live stream. I'll be happy to answer all your FPL questions. And then, of course, as I said, I'll probably be putting a watch list video together this week, so keep a lookout for that. I'll put 5 players on that list more than likely that I think are good options for us if we're considering any moves this week and beyond. And of course, as mentioned, guys, if you enjoy the content on this channel and you're new around here, then hit that subscribe button for me. Let's close in on that 500 mark. And of course, if you enjoy the content as well, smash that like button. So thank you very much for all the support so far on this channel, and I will see you in the next video.